Hello people, it's Gino here from realeverydayenglish.com. In today's video we're going to be discussing some alternative ways in which you can express that something is expensive, whether rightly or wrongly. We're going to get into it, so let's do this. Happy Sunday, welcome back to the channel. It's actually Friday today, but I'll be uploading this video on Sunday, so that's why I'm saying happy Sunday instead of happy Friday. Before we get into today's examples and today's topic, there are a couple of things I want to speak to you about. So the first one is if you enjoy today's content and you want to see more of it, then there are three things that I would kindly request that you consider doing. The first one is to consider subscribing to the channel. The second one is, if you do make the decision to subscribe because you like the content and you want to see more of it, then please make sure that you hit the little bell notification so then you never miss a weekly upload. And the third one is also, if you do like the content, of course, then make sure you smash that like button because it really helps the channel when you do that. Another thing I wanted to talk about just before we get into the topic is that here on this channel you aren't going to hear received pronunciation at all. I'm not saying that learning received pronunciation isn't useful. Of course it is, because there are people here who do speak like that, but the reality is that if you are in the street, especially here in Northern England, you just are not going to hear received pronunciation. Would you like a cup of tea, darling? Sorry, but we all don't speak like that, so on this channel you ain't going to learn received pronunciation, you are going to learn real Northern British pronunciation. Okay, so the first phrase I want to discuss with you today is the phrase rip off. Now there are two main ways in which we use this. Okay, so the first one is as a phrasal verb. So as a phrasal verb, to rip off means to intentionally sell somebody something for more money than what it is worth. Okay, so you're intentionally making excessive gain from the sale or the transaction, whatever it may be. Okay, so to give you an example, I could say something like, "Oh mate, I'm never buying anything off eBay again. I got ripped off last time," and it means I paid too much. Okay. The second way we use rip off is as an adjective. Okay, to describe something that is too expensive. So I can be in a shop, for example, and let's say there's a box of cereal for sale for £6. I know that's really extreme, but it's an example. Okay, let's say there's a box of cereal for sale for £6. I could say something like, "Oh, I'm not paying £6 for a box of cereal, that's a rip-off." Second one is to cost a bomb. Now when you express that something cost a bomb, you're not saying that you feel it wasn't worth that money. What you're saying is that it was very expensive. Okay, so for example, if I have just bought a new car and my friend wants to borrow it, I could say something like, "Yeah, you can borrow my car, but listen, be careful because it cost me an absolute bomb, that car." Number three is to pay over the odds. Okay, to pay over the odds. Now this one can be used either negatively or positively. I'll give you an example in which I'm not really talking about it in a negative way. Let's say I am an antique collector, okay, and I'm at this car boot sale somewhere and I see an item which I know is very rare. I've been looking for it for a long time. I can't find them anywhere. All right, so I decide to buy it even though it's a little bit too expensive. I could then describe that to someone else later on as saying something like, "Yeah, I know I paid over the odds for it, but I couldn't find one anywhere else." You'll have to forgive me this week. I know I'm looking at the floor quite a lot, but it's because I'm watching my foot because it's really muddy and really slippy down there, and I don't want to fall in all the mud because then I'll be absolutely caked in it. So the next one I've got for you today is daylight robbery. Now, when we say that something is a daylight robbery or is daylight robbery, it means that it's well too expensive. Okay, so I'll give you another example of being in a shop. Let's say I'm in a shop and there's a bar of chocolate and they're selling it for £10, let's say, which is ridiculous, I know, but it's just an example. I could say something like, "Oh, There's no way I'm paying that for a bar of chocolate. That is daylight robbery. The next one is cost a fortune, okay? To cost a fortune, or you'll sometimes hear the phrase to cost a small fortune, and there's a subtle difference between the two. But let's stick with cost a fortune. So again, this is not necessarily that you're explaining that something is expensive in a negative way, like you don't think it's worth that money. What it is that you're simply expressing that it was worth a lot of money, all right? So let's say, for example, you have a brother or a sister and they want to borrow your jacket, all right? But your jacket is a very expensive jacket, yeah? So you could say something like, yeah, I don't mind you borrowing it, but listen, you need to take care of it because it cost me a fortune. Moving on, another one you might hear used is to pay top dollar. Now, to pay top dollar just means that you pay a lot of money, all right? And again, it's not exactly a negative thing. So let's say, for example, that I own a bakery, okay? And somebody comes into the bakery and they're asking me, why do my cakes taste so good? And I could say something like, well, I use the best ingredients. Don't get me wrong, I pay top dollar for them, but I want quality ingredients, so that's why I pay top dollar. Moving on, a bit steep. This is one that we use to explain that we feel that something is a little bit too expensive, so we might not buy it, okay? So if I'm buying a bicycle, for example, and I think to myself that this bicycle is worth, let's say, £50, but the guy wants to sell it to me for £75, well, I could say, I don't know, mate, I don't think I'm going to buy it. It's a bit steep, that, for what it is. It's a bit steep. This one is extremely colloquial, okay? The next one is to be taken to the cleaners. Now, we always use this in the past tense, more or less, because the transaction has usually already happened once you're talking about it. So, in the past tense, to be taken to the cleaners becomes took to the cleaners. I got took to the cleaners, you got took to the cleaners, he got took to the cleaners, etc. And when we say that someone got took to the cleaners, it means that they got ripped off, all right? That they paid too much for it. So let's say I've just bought a new car and I feel very happy about myself. I think this car is wonderful. Then I take it to show my friend and my friend says, how much did you pay for it? And I say, well, I paid £2,000 for it. And he says, what, £2,000 for that? You got took to the cleaners, mate. Please don't forget to share this video far and wide if you enjoyed it. I hope everyone is staying safe and staying well, both physically and mentally, in the current lockdown situation. Peace and love. See you people in the next video. Bye bye.